Well, then the Basic Education Department says it's all systems go for pupils to begin the second term of the academic year come tomorrow. That's Monday. There have, however, been concerns about whether it's safe for all primary school pupils to return full-time amid the coronavirus pandemic and the loss of academic learning time. Director at the Northwest University's Community-Based Educational Research Program, Professor Lesley Wood, joins us now to talk more about this. Prof, evening. Thank you so much for being on eNCA. So the big question this week that the Education Minister, along with the MECs, will be discussing is whether primary school pupils should all go back to school full-time and drop the rotational system. Should they?
Well, Thembekile, thank you for having me on. That's not an easy question to answer because there are a lot of complex factors are involved there. I think the first thing we've got to look at is this is a national decision that is affecting all public primary schools or all schools in the country. But our schools are operating in very different circumstances. And we have the well-resourced schools who coped basically quite well with the lockdown because the pupils had access to devices, to uncapped Wi-Fi and so on. But then we have the majority of schools where the pupils did not have that. And so the digital divide and COVID has made the digital divide even worse. So if we look at those kids and we say, well, what are they doing when they're not in school? It may be better for them to go back to school. They may be safer there. Otherwise, you know, for many of them, school might be a place where they have structure, where they are relatively safe, so where the parents are working and they know that the kids are safe, so their minds are at rest. It may be the only place where some of them get a decent meal because of the feeding schemes and so on, and also it gives them some structure. We have a lot of child-headed households, and as we know, and children living under and dangerous circumstances if they're left to run around the streets. Also, with the social distancing is being observed in all our communities, we know that that is a problem all over. From the parents' perspective, it's difficult to have children at home sometimes when you're trying to work from home, or if you're out working somewhere else, then you're worried about your child. So they may prefer to have the children in school.
So, Professor Wood, let me ask you this then. Is a one-size-fits-all approach the best approach in South Africa, given what you've just outlined as far as the socio-economic challenges in South Africa as things stand?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, even before COVID, there was huge discrepancies in the quality of education being delivered. And now, if you look at the children going back to school, if you've got a classroom where you've got 20 kids and a decent-sized classroom and everybody's got PPE, the danger is not so much, or the risk is not so much. But if you're trying to teach in a classroom with 50 kids, they're all bunched together, and none of those PPEs will probably, I'm sure the government is making them available and the education department for everybody. Are they going to actually reach all schools as well? Because we know there's a problem when books don't even reach schools. So who knows what may happen with the PPEs. And look at that from the teacher's point of view as well. I think it may be more dangerous for them. We have a lot of teachers with comorbidities, a lot of hypertension and diabetes and so on. And a little bit of research that I've done earlier in the year on teacher wellness shows that they're really scared about going back for their own risk. But if they're not going back, they're also so worried and stressed out about what is happening to the children, because they know one day they have to go back and they have to get the children through exams. And how are they ever going to catch up? And from a school perspective, you know, as a CEO, the principal, it's a huge responsibility to place on their shoulders as well. Are they going to be blamed if anything goes wrong?
So, Prof, I'm just jumping in here because I'm told producers are watching the clock quite tightly. I want to ask you about the concern about lost learning time. Can what's been lost be regained at this point?
I think, again, that depends on the school. I think some schools will cope perfectly well, and they have been coping well, so they will regain it. And the children haven't fallen behind, but some schools won't. So I don't think it's a question we can say, yes, they should go back, or no, they shouldn't. As I've tried to show, it's not an even playing field. And we know that COVID itself is a very unpredictable, like all viruses. If you look what's happening in India now, for instance. So we just don't know what's going to happen. But a decision has to be made. And I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make it, and I fully respect. But I think it would be best if we could get the children back.
And very briefly, should we relook the way we do assessments then? Because there's a question of what to do with the June exams, for example.
Yes, and I think we actually in the long term have to look at the way we're doing schooling. I think we can learn from the pandemic, and we need to start the digitalization of education in this country. And in assessments too. I think we need to go more for continual assessment and less emphasis on the exams. That's another complex argument that's been going on for years in the education circle. So I don't think there's any one answer. But I think if the kids go back, and I hope everything goes well, and I wish the teachers all the best.
Professor Lesley Wood, we all wish all teachers and pupils all of the best as they return to class tomorrow, Monday. Grateful for your time. We'll chat more to you, of course, as we continue to monitor developments in the basic education sector during the pandemic.